all you crafty creatures out there. Today is the first of what I hope to be many craft product reviews. With me here right now is the Easy Stitch sewing machine. Personally, I have a few sewing machines. I mainly sew intermittently though when I need to make props or gifts. So I guess in short what I'm trying to say is I know my way around a sewing machine. And when choosing this one in particular, I had a few personal requirements. The first one, since I was intentionally getting a toy, I wanted to see what I could do with a very small budget. And also, I wanted one that had a nice foot treadle. Now, some of the ones I saw out there were pretty funky, like this one that literally looks like a mouse. Now, when I said I chose the sewing machine, I actually went out into the world and saw these sewing machines at my local craft store. So unfortunately, it wasn't until I purchased this that I went on to Amazon and saw that it had a whopping 1.5-star review. You know when the first result in the search is waste of money, that you have something special. So without further ado, I'm gonna scan this nifty QR code and we shall begin.
This is an instructional video on how to properly remove your toy sewing machine from the packaging and how to get started. You will need a pair of scissors and a Phillips screwdriver before you can begin using your toy sewing machine.
What size Phillips head screwdriver? You know there's more than one Phillips head screwdriver, right?
From the side flap of the packaging.
What size screw... Okay, whatever.
Open the flap,
I guess we'll figure this out later.
Slide out the insert that holds the toy sewing machine. Keep a lookout for the owner's manual and store it for future reference. Second, cut the tape from the front panel of the insert with a pair of scissors. Locate the zip tie at the bottom of the insert and carefully cut the zip tie. Unfold the foot pedal from the insert. Next, you will need to insert the batteries. Using your Phillips screwdriver, remove the screw from the battery cover. Open up the battery cover and insert 4 AA batteries according to the polarities marked on the battery compartment.
You see this Energizer? Enough for advertising for you. Smiley face.
Close the battery cover and tighten the screw clockwise. Move the switch to the on position. Your Singer toy sewing machine is now ready to be used.
You heard him. That's all we need to know. We're ready to go. Are you excited? I'm excited. And now for the most important part of any video. Struggling to open a small box. At least I'm allowed to use scissors now. Alright, first thing, right off the bat, put those instructions to the side. Don't need you here. Take off gigantic zip tie. Discard tiny piece of cardboard. Take out foot pedal. And on the inside, it looks like they've provided a little needle and threader. Needle looks a little big, but we will revisit that later. Struggle to take apart the little foot pedal cord. And now we admire how small this is and how much like man hands it makes me feel. Like that episode of Seinfeld. Okay, moving past how weirdly tiny this is. In putting in the batteries, I quickly realized the screwdriver I got, which looked like the one in the video, was far too big, so I got my own, which was a 2.4mm Phillips head screwdriver, if anyone was wondering. Just put those batteries right in there, screw it back on, flip it over, turn it on, we're ready to review. In comparing this with a standard size sewing machine, I've noticed a few key differences. The main one being a typical sewing machine has 2 bobbins, one located at the top and then one below the presser foot. What this does is when you've finished sewing your work, you can then run it backwards to make sure when you pull it out your work doesn't unravel. Since this does not come with a bottom bobbin, when you pull out your work, you need to be very careful not to pull out the thread you're working on. I'm guessing this is where some people might have a little difficulty, because mean, you wouldn't really know that if this is your first sewing machine. I could imagine being a kid all excited to use a sewing machine and being very disappointed when you pull out what you just sewed and it totally unravels on you. And as you can see, this one has only one stitch here, the little chain stitch, which even like the most basic sewing machine comes with at least 2 to 4 stitches. I, of course, did not look at my sewing machine to reference this, but that's beside the point. The other thing that I notice is that the pedal cord is a little too short for the desk I'm using. I'm wondering if they were just figuring they'd be at a kid-size table. But because my table's so tall, we're going to have to use our hand to operate this. So I'm just going to use the scrap fabric I have, which is just 100% cotton fabric. And start sewing. There's a little dealie back here to lift the presser foot, so that's kind of nice, kind of a basic function. You make sure your needle is up. You can at least control the up and down of the needle. Oh no. Okay. I was scared for a second. Like, why is it not working? Okay. Again, being very careful not to unravel this. You can see the nice little chain stitches, so what we're going to have to do here is put this on a needle, which they did provide a needle, but there is no way I'm getting this through the cotton fabric. I mean, just stab! Get through! You can do it! Okay, maybe you can't do it. So I'm instead going to use this needle, which I'm guessing they didn't provide a useful needle because it'd be sharp and this is a kid's toy. Not sure if they were just figuring that an adult would give them an appropriate needle. Okay, so I actually left too short of a tail for what you should be doing with this. But I'm just putting it through the last chain stitch I did. Ah! Again, I gave myself too short of a tail. So we have successfully sewn one side. Let's go for another. You lift your needle up in the presser foot. This is also very loud. I'm not sure if you can tell. And to keep the thread progressing, you just hold down. Now keep going. It's great. It's not great. All right, and again. Again, we're gonna find that lonely little chain stitch that just wants to be your friend. Not totally seeing yet why this was why this had such a bad review on Amazon. I mean, it's not great, but it's getting the job done. and I also had pre-pinned this before sewing. If you're a child, you should always ask permission from adults before using shop things. Oh dear. What happened here? No! No! Resew! Not totally sure what just happened there. Okay, this part seems to be sturdy again. Thank goodness. Well, the bottom seems perfectly fine. Totally ignore that you should be using black thread on a black bag, but if I did that, you wouldn't be able to see it now, would you? And now, crafty creatures, is the moment I look deep into my heart and ask myself, would I recommend this to anyone, anywhere? Well, looking at the pro side of things, it does have a nice portability to it because of the batteries. It does give you kind of a basic idea of sewing and how a sewing machine works. And it is pretty affordable when you look at all the available sewing machines. This was only $30. On the other hand, in this lovely cons column, you only have one bobbin, which means no back stitch, so there's no easy way to finish off your work without possibly unraveling it and screwing everything up and crying. It's also very loud, which, I mean, it just makes you feel like something's gonna explode, something's going wrong. I don't know, acquired a machine is just soothing for some reason. And also, bringing this up again, it's way too small. I mean, even if we look at the box, the child looks way too small for this child's sewing machine. That just can't be right. Also, easily malfunctions. I immediately had where I'm guessing one of the chain loops just didn't catch when it was sewing, and so that whole section just came undone. So, it's just really easily malfunctioning, which makes for the anxiety. It only has the one chain stitch. Again, bringing that up again. I think the pedal cord is also far too short. I mean, it might be catered to a child's desk. I don't know. Just seems a little too short to me. And then my last point is that, I'm sorry, but this needle is worthless. Even if you get it through any fabric, you're gonna leave a giant gaping hole in your work. I realize they don't want to give kids needles that they could possibly hurt themselves with, but then just don't give them a needle. Don't give them this thing that they're gonna ruin their work with. You know, the more I think about it, the more I realize this machine is kind of worthless without a proper needle. Huh. So taking the pros and cons into consideration, I would give it a 4 out of 10. Wouldn't prefer it, but if it's the only option you have available to you, it'll do just okay. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this review of the Singer Easy Stitch Sewing Machine. If you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications, leave a like, and comment on what craft kits or tools or whatever you'd like me to review next. And to all you creatures, stay crafty.